Speaking of people who has nothing but unabashed admiration for communist dictators, and pretty soon, November 27th is going to be meeting his maker when one Professor Richard Wolff is in studio. Richard Wolff has said he is going to go Pol Pot on his ass. David Griscom with the David Griscom Economic Minute, the gem, the Griscom economic system.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make a little complaint or just general observation. So we all know PBR, that one beer that won a beer contest in the 1800s and still brags about it.
Right. Yes.
PBR actually might be shutting down because of its relationships with Miller. And I sort of wanted to investigate that a little bit just because we don't think about these things as much, especially with these kind of brands that we're used to having, and we just sort of understand how business works. So, Pabst is the maker of PBR, but they don't brew their own beer. And something that you'd actually be surprised about is a lot of the beers that you think are your local shitty beer. For example, I'm from Texas. Lone Star is like our local crappy beer.
Sir, can I get a Lone Star? Have you ever said that in your life?
And it's like, if you ever want to make money in Texas, just market it as something about Texas and you'll make a shitload of money.
Yeah, Texas is a very narcissistic place.
But but also, in Maryland, there's Natty Bo, Old Milwaukee.
Fucking Natty, dude.
Dude, Natty Bo's great. I lived in D.C. for a while. But anyways, it's like all these beers that you think are local are actually
crab
owned
cakes and some
by
Natty.
by a large corporation, which is Pabst.
Right.
Pabst owns a shitload of beers.
Please tell me it's a European holding company.
No, it's an American asshole.
All right,
I can't remember his name right now. But because they're unable to produce all these beers, they actually contract that out to Miller. And now Miller is refusing to brew beers for Pabst, which will basically mean that Pabst and all these other beers that we know actually might not be available in the near future. Yeah, this is the CEO of Pabst.
Eugene Kashper.
Yeah, a real winner.
Wearing a just nice T-shirt, CEO T-shirt.
Yeah, totally. I'm just really committed to the Pabst experience. I got to tell you, from my experience doing not much, but a little bit of freelance brand stuff, talking about beer brands was one of the most obnoxious conversations you could ever the market incentive for people to sit in a beautiful office in Lower Manhattan and try to make beer deeper than it is one of the most incredibly pretentious activities.
Well, it's funny. It's like in Mad Men, the pilot episode where Draper is breakthrough is like, say they're toasted.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And the process to get to that type of insight is well, you're in your early 30s now, so are you drinking differently now? It's yeah, I started.
I've got a little bit more money now.
Yeah, no, literally, literally. I started drinking scotch, and I used to think I didn't like how it tasted, but I realized it's just because I didn't used to be able to afford it.
No, but trust me, there's plenty of bad beer out there. But I just want to make this point because for people who they do have their loyalties, and as we just opened up our Miller High Life, Miller High Life has been brought up now as an alternative to PBR.
Right.
And now that it's sort of taken over a larger part of market share, now Miller is starting to push back about brewing PBR. And the point that I wanted to make about this is that monopoly capital actually makes our societies very confusing and often very stupid at times.
Right.
It's not something that, as people like our friend Dave Rubin would talk about, make the world more efficient and give you more choices, because it's
No, do it.
Oh no.
Fuck.
Well, competition will start kicking in.
Competition would start kicking in.
Because it's just as rational for the market to buy up or prevent other alternatives.
Monopoly would start kicking in.
I feel I have to get the gushing out first.
As we saw a couple shows ago when I was talking about Filmstruck being shut down,
right?
Because they don't want to have the competition, because now that Warner Media's has taken over Filmstruck. And it's just one of these things where it's not a system that always creates efficiency. You want to talk about something, talk about deindustrialization. When they've shut down factories, right, they're not always doing it because they're moving it overseas. Oftentimes they're doing it because it makes more sense to shut down any competition. This is something that happened all across Eastern Europe after capitalism came into Eastern Europe. You saw car companies being completely shut down, right? Bought out by Western firms, and then all of those factories sitting dormant. because it made a larger market share for Volkswagen to be able to sell their cars. Now, when I'm talking about PBR and the end of PBR, now I don't even particularly like PBR. I'm more of a Shiner Bock guy anyway.
Yeah, you are.
Over anything. But
I'll have a Shiner Bock, sir.
These
Could I
aren't
interest
tiers.
you in a conversation on Ho Chi Minh?
These aren't tiers over specific companies, but it's the fact that Lone Star is produced in North Carolina, right? Or Natty Boh is made in Georgia. It makes their systems very complicated, and oftentimes it can run into these very obscure and bizarre hiccups that can interrupt, entire brands that people build identities around or whatnot. So if you want to talk about a system that's not efficient, you want to talk about a system that just creates problems left and right for itself, you got to talk about capitalism, and you specifically need to talk about monopoly capitalism, because that's a system that will eat itself before it tries to produce better alternatives. You look at something like Toys R Us.
Capitalist will sell himself the last can of PBR.
That's a good flip on it. No, but it's one of these things. It's like you look at what happened with Toys R Us. You have an entire organization, and it just gets completely stripped because you could make a higher return. Because if the logic is always to find the highest return on capital, you're going to find these things where entire organizations are just shut down because another organization finds that it's in their benefit to just destroy production in other areas. So pour one out for PBR. It's going to be a huge lawsuit. It's probably not the end of them, but it's just one of these reminders of how inefficient our system is. Yeah, I mean,
This reminds me of when Apple bought Lala.com, which, if people don't remember, it was around 2009 and 2010. For a little bit, if you Googled a song, the first result would be a Lala.com thing, and you could literally stream it from the Google landing page. And Apple bought it up and killed it a month later.
Killed it, right.
Incredible.
So as to facilitate its monopoly, right. All right, David, perfect. You just enjoyed that Michael Brooks Show video, and you can get a lot more by subscribing to us here at the Michael Brooks Show YouTube channel. It's literally right there.